the rapture. I think it's sooner than we think. I think that the outside date is September the 24th. I think that's the date that the Antichrist should be revealed. And once the Antichrist is revealed, from what I read, there's not much more that the tribulation saints need to say. I've said it for years that as soon as they see the rapture, they're going to drop straight to their knees and realize that they missed the rapture because they were counting on their work. I'm not a prophet. I haven't had a dream. It's never thus saith the Lord. It's just me, a guy who has worked on timelines for a very long time and found one that I believe actually fits. Based on that, I think that the outside date is September the 24th. I think that's the day the Antichrist will reveal himself. Right now, it is August the 29th. Some very high watch days coming up. The beginning from the end. Some very high watch days coming up would be the Feast of Oil. The Feast of Oil lands 50 days after the Feast of New Wine, and that count, according to Leviticus, will always begin on the Sabbath after. This is the Sabbath.
Okay, so let's do a little bit of last days, end times, Bible prophecy, speculation. Okay? Speculation is speculating. It is not predicting. There is a huge difference. If I tell you, look, I've looked at the weather patterns in my area, and I think I'm speculating it could rain on Tuesday. That's speculating. If I say to you, I've looked at the weather patterns in my area, it's going to rain on Tuesday, that's predicting. Okay? So here I'm speculating, and I'm speculating because I don't know the day of the rapture. None of us do. And like Brother Chooch likes to say, he's always thinking out loud. And that's kind of what I'm doing here today. I don't know the day of the rapture. I don't know the day of the sudden destruction. I don't know the day that they say peace and safety. I don't know the date and time the Antichrist is going to confirm the Daniel 9:27 covenant. None of us do. We speculate. We look at the signs that are going on. We look at the events in the world that are going on. And then we think, could it be this or could it be that? So let's speculate. Now that you guys know what speculating is, like you didn't before we started this, but I just want to be clear that I'm not saying this is exactly what's going to happen. But President Trump is going to be trumpeting on the Feast of Trumpets. And I find this fascinating. This broke last night. President Trump to address the UN General Assembly on September 23rd, which is Rosh Hashanah, according to the White House. He will address the United Nations General Assembly in New York on September 23rd. He's traveling there on the 22nd. And it will be his first time in his second term that he has addressed the UN. And the White House said it yesterday. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt made the announcement during her daily briefing. Quote, the president will travel to New York City on September 22nd to address the United Nations General Assembly on Tuesday, September 23rd. She said at her press briefing yesterday. I'm just wondering. So we got all the world leaders gathering here at the United Nations on Rosh Hashanah. They're gathering that entire week. But President Trump will address the world, and he is arguably, I don't even know if it's arguably that right now he is the most powerful man in the world. And I want to say something before I even get further into this. I am not saying President Trump is the Antichrist. Many people believe he is. I am not one of those. I don't think there's 1% chance that he is. I don't think it's any American is going to be the Antichrist. So I just want to make that clear. But I'm speculating here. As President Trump gathers with all these leaders and does his speech, you know that speech is going to contain peace and security. They do it every year, and all the leaders do it, and they're all gathered, and I feel like they are going to be saying peace and security. Now, could this be 1 Thessalonians 5, verse 3? For when they say peace and safety, then sudden destruction comes upon them as labor pains upon a pregnant woman, and they shall not escape. I just wonder, with all the world leaders gathering there, and their agenda is talking about peace and security. They have a whole section of it on their website. It's all peace and security. I just wonder, could this be the peace and security that Paul talked about? I just think with all the world events going on, I can't look away from it. I find it fascinating, honestly. What if at this meeting, they kind of did, this is total speculation, please. I just want you to, just from the brain of Tom, God doesn't whisper things in my ears. I'm not saying that this is what's going to happen, but just perhaps at this meeting, they come up with a framework for peace and security. You know, they start talking about, let's maybe do a contract here, a covenant. And then the sudden destruction comes. And then maybe in that sudden destruction, this is just all, maybe the rapture happens in that time period. Maybe it happens before then. Maybe it happens today. But maybe they do the peace and safety Paul talked about. Maybe they proclaim it there. The sudden destruction comes, and then they gather a weeks, maybe a month after, and they confirm the covenant. Speculation. Total speculation.